Welcome back, everybody. Just hang tight. We'll get going here in just a few minutes. Hold on to your butts. Good to see you, Mark. All right, some of the things we're going to talk about today, of course, we'll start with a case overview on the Flora fires, the case of Kiara, Cariel, and Kiani. Talk about what happened. There is some new news. There's an FBI update, so we'll discuss that, which is great news. Take a look at the profile of a killer, of an arsonist, and then we'll open up the floor for discussion. What's up, Karen? She Warrior. How you doing? How you healing up? When are you going to see if you can run faster? What's up, Hex? Do you think Richard Allen will be granted an appeal? No, I don't. Because it sounds like he's trying to appeal on some things that didn't really happen. I think Gold did her job the way she was supposed to. At least on paper. All right, so like I said, we're going to do a quick case overview. We'll look at some updated information. Looks like the FBI is getting involved. They've been going door to door there in Flora, which is amazing. And of course, I had to send in the information that I had on what I've gathered on the case immediately. So as soon as I saw that they were getting involved, I sent in my tip. Especially when it looks like what they're trying to do is go door to door and speak to those folks who still live there when, people that lived during the time of the fire happened. That includes my person of interest, of course, who's going to be extremely easy to find because he's in prison already. I think for the next 20 years or something like that for violent crimes. It's good to see you, Karen. Melissa Wildcard, what up? Jerry, how the hell are you? Georgia girl, you have to wonder why the 911 call is being kept from the public. Why it typically isn't. Yeah, it's a good question. There's a lot of weirdness surrounding the 911 call. Remember, they didn't call 911 first. They called the landlords first, which is very strange. Kind of gives you that what's the word for it? I almost called it Goodfellas. But good old boys, like, hey, we handle things on our own, before we get the police involved. We take care of our own. pretty sore, and I'd say it's going to be a good 6 weeks before I try to run anywhere. Nah, it just reminded me of when I was a little kid. I'd get a pair of new shoes, and for some reason, I would swear to it that I could run faster. And of course, I'd have to prove it. I believe Richard Allen is guilty, but I don't think there's enough for the death penalty. Yeah, they didn't put the death penalty on the table. I don't know. I think if they would have put the death penalty on the table, maybe they would have got a confession. I mean, look what happened with Brian Kohberger. It was almost the pressure that he needed. But they had a lot more evidence against Brian Kohberger. Like, they had a lot on him. FBI tribute to Ferenczi as well. No. And if you guys want to send me anything for me to look at it later or whatever, shoot me an email at sleuthintuition@gmail.com. Don't email me to complain or to bitch and moan. None of those emails. But if you have something really cool and interesting and you think it's helpful for a case or something that we've been diving into, by all means. But I don't want you emailing me saying, Georgia girls, she's mean to me. Aren't you seeing this in the chat, Sleuth? Like, no. Don't you see that I'm doing a live stream? Hello. That's how you can spot a narcissist. They thought it was their live stream. Oh, yeah, this is your live stream. Yeah, can I continue, please? I feel if they're going to give someone the death penalty and not life, they should have to provide concrete evidence. I agree with that. And sometimes when they go for the death penalty, it does put some unneeded pressure or just pressure on the jury in general. I mean, put yourself in their position. Some of the jury members came forward in the Karen Reed case, and they said they were under immense pressure. And she wasn't even looking at that much time, right? I don't think she would have gotten life in prison. Okay, so the Flora fire, it happened November 21st, 2016 in Flora, Indiana. Claimed the lives of 4 young sisters, Kiana Davis, Kiara Phillips, Carrie L. McDonald, and Kiana Welch. Ages range from 5, 7, 9, and 11. I mean, this is just a nightmare scenario here. The fire, later ruled an arson, remains one of Indiana's most high-profile unsolved cases, with no arrests made nearly 9 years later. It doesn't feel so high-profile, you know? Like, the FBI's recent involvement for me is shocking. I feel like the girls were already written off a long time ago. So this is amazing. Like, if you want something to break loose, don't you got to kind of get in there and kind of wiggle things around, shake things up, you know, drive a wedge? No, I don't. If you have that, feel free to send it to me. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. Mark, great video on Del. Yeah, thank you. I worked really hard on that video. You know, some people get lost in it all when you ask questions like that. When it comes to Evansdale and Delphi, are they connected? Everybody's like, no, they're not connected. And that's not the point. The point isn't about are they connected. The point is, in a way, they are connected. You know what I mean? They could be connected without being connected. We've learned a lot from the Delphi murders. So if we're looking at two crimes that are almost identical, maybe we're looking at two identical people, you know, people who are very similar in their lifestyles, and the reasons why they selected their victims, you know? So maybe they are connected. You know, Richard Allen hiding in plain sight. Possibly could be what's happening in Evansdale. So it's not really about being right or wrong. It's just about bringing attention to the cases. Two cases that are important to me and important to a lot of my subscribers. You know? So you have some people that are shutting it down like, no, they're not connected. They've already got that all figured out. Okay, so you want us to stop talking about Evansdale because they got it all figured out. Okay. That doesn't seem productive to me. If they had it all figured out, the case would be closed. How about that? So we're going to keep yelling about it. We're going to keep saying their names. We're going to keep showing the photographs. We're going to keep sharing the tip lines. And we're going to keep doing our amateur sleuthing. And we don't give a shit what you think or feel about it. Unless you are family members of the victims that we're covering and you're not quite happy with what we're doing, just let me know. We'll shut it down. What's up, Frank? A lot of people don't use critical thinking. One thing that I'm noticing more than that is that people aren't consistent. You know what I mean? That's what we try to achieve on this channel. We try to be consistent. We're not going to favor law enforcement if they're doing something that's shady, right? If we can see that they're being shady, we're not going to just ignore it. We're going to call it out as we see it. And if we feel that somebody is being wrongfully accused and, you know, some of these confessions or what have you, or false confessions and things like that, we'll call them out. But we're going to be consistent. J. Ray, I think it could have been up to life in prison if they convicted on the second-degree murder charge for Karen Reed. I don't know if that's true, J. Ray. And even if that's the max, I guess it could be. People rarely get the max. But I'll trust what you're saying. The hell do I know? NASA or Disney? Well, they use NASA quite often in cases. You know, they've been helpful in a few cases. Not a lot, but a few. Specifically when it comes to things like license plates. So not necessarily identifying a subject, but vehicles and vehicle identifiers and things like that. So NASA's been actually really helpful. You know, because most CCTV footage, security footage is crap. Recently, we covered a case in Washington where this creep was just jumping over people's backyards and breaking into their house and watching them sleep. Well, he did it to like 3 or 4 houses. In one of the homes, they actually had a camera inside their bedroom, which is fucking smart. Only problem is it was crap. So he got charged and eventually convicted with all the other homes that were invaded, and, you know, he did all this creepy shit on, but not theirs, because their camera could not clearly show him. You know, it's like, it's obviously it's this guy, right? He matches the description, but it just didn't show his face clearly. So he gets charged for all the crimes that happened at the exact same time in the same location with the clear footage of him, but they're unable to charge him with that one because the camera sucked. So if you're going to put cameras in your home, inside your home, make sure they're good. Make sure the quality is good, especially when the lights are turned out. Lisa says, I didn't know the FBI was investigating Flora. Yeah, here, I have a quick video. Maybe we should watch that. It was put out this morning. By WRTV ABC. So let me share my screen. Just hang tight. Don't go anywhere. All right. Let me know if you guys have any issues with the audio.
Renewed push by investigators for information in a 2016 fire that killed 4 girls in Flora. Today, the FBI and Indiana State Police went door to door, hoping to speak with residents in the Carroll County community. WRTV's Rachel Wilkerson was there and details the new effort by federal and local law enforcement to solve this case.
A fresh set of eyes are now on this deadly Flora fire case with a new set of investigators. Even if you've already been interviewed or provided information in the past, the FBI is asking that you reshare that information. They say it can be anything that you've seen, heard, or been told.
They showed up, knocked on the door, asking about what happened across the street.
It's been nearly 9 years since 4 sisters, Kiana, Kiera, Carrielle, and Kiani, died in a fire. Investigators ruled it as arson, yet the case is still unsolved.
It was awful. It just terrible.
An empty lot remains at the corner of East Columbia and South Division Streets, where the family's home once stood. The memory of November 21st, 2016 haunts neighbors.
My brother ran down there. He was going to try to go in and help save the kids.
It was...
All right, real quick. Do any of you remember this guy? David Lucas? In the first couple days of the Delphi murders, he was one of their top 5 suspects right here, this guy. But was eventually cleared. David Lucas. David James Lucas. Sometimes he goes by James Lucas. For whatever reason, he's going by his middle name here. He picks and chooses. So here, I might even have that video. Let's take a look at this.
Indiana's news leader. Eyewitness News at 6 o'clock starts now.
And we're getting our first look tonight
Paradox.
at a remote area where 2 13-year-old girls were found.
This video is kind of quiet.
This comes as tips are flooding into the police station.
I'll try to turn it up a little bit.
The killings of Libby German and Abby Williams. Police are now questioning people about the case just hours after putting out an image of a man that they said they wanted to talk to.
This man was on the same trail around the same time as the 13-year-olds before they went missing. Police say he isn't a suspect, but someone they want to talk to hopefully get more information about.
Right? He's not a suspect. We just want to talk with him. So how at this moment does Dan Doolin not say, well, what about that Richard Allen guy?
About what happened to Libby and Abby.
And police are moving fast on leads. Eyewitness News reporter Rich Van Wyk spoke with one of the people questioned by police today, and he joins us now from near the crime scene. Rich?
John, at the crime scene today, we learned just how difficult it was for the killer and their victims to get to this remote area. It's steep, it's treacherous, it's difficult. We also learned more about why police want to talk specifically to one.
Georgia, Ferenczi worked with the FBI. He was basically an FBI agent. He was like both. So he was Indiana law enforcement, but he also worked for the FBI. So if they're doing a tribute to him, that's probably why.
One man who was in the same area as these girls, roughly about the time they disappeared. The crime scene is serene and isolated.
You got it.
Hard to reach, hard to leave. making it almost hard to believe such a horrible crime occurred here.
It's just hard to comprehend as to what's happened here.
Ron Logan has owned and roamed these woods for 50 years. Through the trees, he pointed to the now infamous Monon High Bridge.
At the end of the bridge there is where their last photographs were taken.
By Libby of her friend Abby. The Monday afternoon, they disappeared. They were
What's up,
about
Miss
half a
Doglover?
mile away from where searchers found their bodies. It's a half mile of steep hills, high bluffs, and deep ravines.
No, it's not an easy trip. And I'm quite amazed anybody knows how to get here.
Investigators say they've identified almost everyone in the area when the girls disappeared, except this man, photographed on the same bridge the girls visited. Since releasing the photo, they've received hundreds of tips.
Did he see somebody else that maybe some of the others didn't see? And so we just basically want to talk to him.
That one, he kind of looks like he has a mustache. But remember, the majority, if you're, let's say you're looking for Ron Logan, right? All right, I'm looking for the facial features of Ron Logan. The first thing that kicks in is your bias, right? You've already made the biggest mistake because you're looking for something. And the one thing that likes to, the best friend of your bias is things like pareidolia. You know, that's the kid in the neighborhood that nobody quite likes and the parents tell them to wait outside. You know, so in comes the pareidolia. You're looking for it. So all of these little imperfections up here, if you're looking for something that's not there, a lot of these things will just start to make sense to you. Like, oh, there it is. There's a smiley face. But really, the only clear image on this entire thing, if you know what you're looking for, is right here. So if you forget everything else and you just focus in this one little area, it's not going to get any clearer than this little spot right here. And that's what you're going to get from every frame, is something that's overlapping with all of the cascading motion blur. The parts that overcross, that actually match, are going to stand out. And here you can kind of see the hat, the ear, and the face. Well, actually, it's like a cheek.
We've received hundreds of tips.
Did he see somebody else that maybe some of the others didn't see? And so we just basically want to
What's
talk
up,
to him
American
just to
girl?
see what information he's got for us.
James Lucas says
Look, there he
police
is.
also asked to speak with him.
It was scary. I never expected it.
James Lucas.
Lucas says he was one of the hundreds of searchers. Police.
He even searched. And he also says in the video I'm going to finish up going back to Flora, that they tried to go inside. They were going to go in and try to help the girls. So he was on scene. So you have this guy who's on scene, taken in as a prime suspect. They took his phone. I think they even searched his home. And he was cleared. So this same guy, and he's talking to law enforcement, or excuse me, to media. You know, he's involved. Same thing. That's what he's doing over there with the Flora case.
Asked him a few questions, checked his phone, then let him go.
They said if they need me later, they would get a hold of me.
All while a community is coming to grips.
Oh, and by the way, if you go look at his Facebook, I guess he has no shame about it because it's not private, but all he has is like hundreds and hundreds of prostitutes and like inappropriate accounts. Maybe one or two actual people are his friends. But out of the few hundred friends that he has, it's all sex workers and people, you know, promoting sex on Facebook. He's not trying to hide it. So,
with the horror of what occurred here.
Two young kids playing, you know, thinking of having a wonderful day. Valentine's Day.
What's up, GP?
Ends up in one of the largest tragedies in Carroll County history.
In your backyard?
In my backyard. Yeah, it's a big thought. Not a good one.
Here's a good thought. Police told me that they believe they are very confident they can solve this case. They're not saying who took that picture of the man on that bridge. They are saying, though, they've received more than 200 tips so far as to who he might be. They're checking them out.
That's all right. Good.
Indiana's news leader.
There's another video where they actually talk to James Lucas a little bit more. But you hear they say, oh, they took my phone. And here he is talking about how he was there the night of the Flora fires. He's talking to media again.
Going to try to go in and help save the kids.
It was ugly.
The memory of November 21st, 2016 haunts neighbors.
My brother ran down there. He was going to try to go in and help save the kids.
So he said his brother ran down there and was going to try to help save the kids. So I wonder who his brother is. David James Lucas and his brosif.
It was ugly. I don't know how to describe it. We were just looking like dumbfounded. We didn't know what to do or say.
James McCoy tells me he and his wife were surprised to see 2 FBI agents Monday morning.
They're asking about, was there any rumors of going around, any strange people?
The presence of agents and newfound quest for answers in the case is providing hope for Flora residents.
I hope, that they can come back out and find stuff. Them little kids didn't deserve what they went to.
So his name, James Lucas, that must be either his brother or his father, maybe. I'm thinking his father. And he's a junior.
And find stuff. Them little kids didn't deserve what they went to.
I hope they can find the person who done it and serve justice for the little girls.
The girls are remembered as being kind, caring, with sweet smiles.
I really love those kids.
I take the trash can out.
James Lucas said, I really love those kids. Like, what does that mean? Like, did he know the kids?
Kind, caring, with sweet smiles.
I really love those kids.
He said, I really love those kids. Interesting. Welcome in, Miss Dog Lover Lisa and Rodolfo. Howdy, howdy. USA Patriot, what's good? Is this new regarding FBI questioning? Yes. They are going door to door as we speak. So somebody's going to talk. If somebody's changed, had a change of heart, loyalties can change over time. Somebody might have been pissed off. This could be a good opportunity for somebody to drop a little whoop, take that $5,000 reward. Good to see you, Kelly. Oh, GP, how's things? Paradoxical. Okay, so the fire broke out about around 4 a.m. 4 sisters died due to asphyxiation and inhalation of carbon monoxide and soot, as listed on their death certificates. Gaylin Rose survived but was seriously injured while attempting to rescue her daughters. What's up, Brad Lucas? Didn't Carter say the mother hadn't told the whole story of who was coming in and out of the home? Not related to the Lucas, by the way. Well, you sure popped out at the right moment, Brad, to point at Gaylin. You know what? That's what I was going to title this live stream was Tunnel Vision. I was going to put but I think I was going to save it for the next live stream I have lined up. It's going to be like the lead investigators looking down this tunnel. And then at the end of this tunnel, it's going to be like a table with drugs on it. They got tunnel vision. Like, oh, there's rumors of drug activity here and certain people comings and goings. It's got to be that. That's how you get tunnel vision. Right? And that's how people are able to hide in plain sight. Because they just walk over the tunnel. or behind the officers. Don't mind me, officer. Have fun with your tunnel there. So there being drug activity there doesn't mean that that's related to the fires, right? Like, how would you tie 2 and 2 together? It's not like there's some kind of drug feud. They're warring gangs, like what are you even talking about? Well, they had pot there and one of her boyfriends was known drug abuser. Okay, how does that tie to a fire? Lazy, just lazy. Exactly. American Girl says Doug Carter said that on an interview. He's recently taken that back. There was a lot of people going in and out of that house insinuating that it was drugs. Yeah, and during the next live stream, we're going to talk about that. We can talk about it now, but we're going to focus in on that kind of shit. That's their laziness. Oh, Gaylin, she's not giving us the 4th interview that we've asked for her. And we've given her immunity of any charges with our drug angle. That's not going to make her feel like you're doing a good investigation. Because what you're insinuating is that she has to snitch on somebody that she knows or cares about, as if they're somehow involved. So, like, it's the whole premise of it. Instead of actually doing the investigation and showing the proof that somehow drugs are tied to the fire, right? Don't you need a nexus? Don't get caught up on that. If they wouldn't have had tunnel vision, they wouldn't have got caught up on it. Right? They can't find Richard Allen hiding right in front of their fucking face. So I don't want to hear that shit. I wish I could tell you the story. One day I'll be able to tell you the story. I drove through Flora on my way to Delphi. The fuck out of here. Welcome in, Lynn. Yeah, it's all tunnel vision. But you got to count on law enforcement. Trust the process. What process? In the Delphi case, Richard Allen literally came into the police station and said, hey, I was there that day at that very moment. I love going on that bridge. That's like one of my favorite places to go. Do I suffer from mental health issues? Yes. Why? I'm glad you asked. Here's my medical bracelet. I may slit your throat at any moment. Come back later, Mr. Allen. Mr. Bridge guy looking mofo. Come back. We'll send an exhausted Dan Doolin out there to come check on you a little bit later. Yeah. And J. Ray, I don't know what's worse. What's worse, the incompetence or the corruption? Sometimes I'm not sure. They're both equally damaging. And if you guys haven't participated in the poll, do it now. Question, why haven't the killers been caught? 3% of you say, well, he's hiding in plain sight, which I agree with. 20% say, I'm really not sure, dude. 37% people need to come forward, which would coincide with the breaking news that the FBI is actually lifting up some rocks right now. Corruption or incompetence, which I think are equally devastating. But it's like what I used to tell my kids when we're at the lake. I can't find any crawdads. Well, it's because you need to lift up some of those rocks. Lift up some of those rocks and you might find some hiding underneath there. Because they're not going to just be out there in the open. Yeah, do a little digging. What's going on, Karen? Doug Carter also said he went to that house all the time, would sit and just look at it. It gave him peace. Yeah, that's weird. That's all talk, right? I'm pretty sure he was like a theater major or some shit like that. Like, he's the guy on screen, right? The good-looking, older, trustworthy guy to deflect everything. You got a problem with the way the investigation's going? Throw it at me. Kind of like a jester, in a way. Posing as like a knight. Okay, the home was a rental owned by Birch Tree Holdings, managed by landlords Josh Ayers and Troy Helderman. The family had moved into a duplex in the summer of 2016. The Indiana State Fire Marshal's office initially ruled the fire cause as undetermined due to extensive damage, with suspicions it originated behind the refrigerator in the kitchen. No accelerants were detected initially, and foul play was not suspected. Now, is it because accelerants weren't detected, or did they lack the ability to detect accelerants? Which is it, the chicken or the egg? Lisa says there's a pattern of slumlord fires in that exact area. So, well, it is interesting. My person of interest, I haven't made it a secret, is Adam Ayers. Let me pull up this video, and I'll kind of maybe this will help, because now that the home is torn down,
just a couple minutes
tonight.
This kind of gives you a good view. There it is. So maybe this will help explain. So when the house was here, there was just enough room to park like a small vehicle in between the firehouse and Adam Ayers' home right here, where he was staying. And then right about here, there was a gate. The only thing that separated this property from Gaylin's home was this gate. Let me see if I have something else. I thought I put something together. Oh, here it is. Okay, so this would be the back of the home. So you would walk through that gate, and there's a door right in the back of the home, which gives you access to the mudroom. And apparently this is kind of where the fire started, from this area, the kitchen, and I think a little bit into the dining room. And the one thing I was thinking is, if I'm going to light a home on fire, but I don't want to kill everybody that's inside, even though, of course, I'm putting them all at risk by lighting the fire, but knowing that there's a family that lives right here, up here on this level, they could come down these stairs. That's how they got in and out of the home anyway. They were completely separate from the rest of the home. So Adam Ayers, being the cousin of the owner of the property, if he was hired, and this is all hypothetical, I'm not accusing anybody. This is how you would do it, right? I'll start the fire in the back of the home. Everybody will just flee, and they'll get out into the front. So he lights the fire between, I think, around like 3:30, 4 a.m., somewhere in that area, 3:30-ish. And the fire apparently started here. He's the only person to report seeing a ribbon of fire. So he's there so fast that the fire hasn't even spread enough. He's still seeing the ribbons that are lit, which is most likely just the accelerant. That's what he reported later on, of course. So he's also the first person on the scene because he said he heard Gaylin yelling, "My kids, my kids, my kids." So that means he's up, he's alert, and he responded quick enough to enter the home and see just the accelerant lit, but not make it up the stairs to save the girls. And then for whatever reason, once the entire home was engulfed in flames, he started knocking out the children's windows with rocks. You might be able to explain it, you might not. Like, hey, they eventually died of asphyxiation. Let me get some air in there. But at the same time, you're adding fuel. So it's just strange to see the guy who lives next door, who has a violent criminal history, who is right now in prison for a violent crime, whose wife reported that she was up already around 3 a.m. Why was she up? Because this dipshit was probably terrorizing her. And in some kind of fit of rage and something that we can't quite understand, he goes in there through this back door because he has a personal connection to this home. He spent some time in that home. His family owned it. I think his grandparents owned it at one point. And he's related to the actual owner, one of the owners. So remember, in all of the fantasies of the killers, it always involves something that has to do with what relates to them. Remember, I always take you guys back to the Coeur d'Alene arson sniper. What did he do? He lit a fire so it would attract the firefighters. And then he climbed a tree that would basically be impossible for the normal person. But what he wanted to do for a living is climb. He wanted to be a climber. And some companies and businesses, they need shit like that. And I think the firefighters do as well. But that's what he wanted to be, a professional climber. So if we never caught this sniper, because he eventually took his own life, I think, nearby the scene, we would be looking for somebody who has a vendetta against the fire department for whatever reason, and somebody who has skills at climbing. That totally describes the homeless man that lived 2 blocks away. So how do we explain the man who committed this fire? Well, when it comes to Adam, he's very familiar with this house. He's a very violent person, psychopathic tendencies. This could be all part of his sick fantasy. You got to reverse engineer this shit. Good to see you, Rescue. Gaylin, the kids lived upstairs, but not right here. So let me see if I have another photo that might help you. This might help. This is the floor plan. Okay, so here's the mudroom that I was talking about, the back of the home. So if you were to enter in through the back, you would walk up these steps, walk through the kitchen. There'd be a dining table right here. And then right to the right here, this level goes upstairs to the girls' bedroom, which is on the right side of the home, right? They have their own bedroom. They have their own closet. They have their own bathroom. It's all upstairs right here. And that's where all the smoke traveled to, up this staircase right here. But over here, this is the second floor bedroom. Sorry, this is Gaylin's room. I'm sorry. But upstairs is the girls' room. Sorry, no bathroom, but walk-in closet. And you can kind of see you got to walk up, go around a corner, and take a left and then another right. But what you don't see in this floor plan is because this is the first floor. I don't know if I have the other one. But right over the living room is another bedroom and bathroom. And the way you access that is through the staircase right here. So I don't know if that helps. This was Adam Ayers. Adam Ayers lived next door. He was awake at the time the fires were lit. He's a violent criminal against his own family and others. He's a known meth head. You know, petty robberies and things like that to keep up with this habit. He's currently serving a long term in prison as we speak. But he was the first responder. He was the first person to go into the home. He said when he entered the home, he saw ribbons of fire. Now, ribbons of fire just basically if you took an accelerant and squeezed it out of a squeeze bottle or dumped it out of a cup or something, the area that where you poured it is going to stay on fire first until it catches its surroundings on fire. So he's reporting that's what I saw. I saw the ribbons, you know, it's just the accelerant on fire. And eventually that catches everything else on fire. That's what he's referring to as a ribbon. And arson detectives are trained to look for that. What's up, Tech Dev? I don't know, Georgie, but if you're going to light the fire and you know that people are home, this is where you would do it. Like if I'm trying to minimize my criminal act, like I'm just here as a hired arsonist. We're tired of renting out this home. We're tired of dealing with this. You know, we'll light the fire in the back. Everybody will get out. Everybody will be safe. So this is the area where the fire was lit. And remember, there's a gate that goes around the entire home. But as far as Adam Ayers is concerned, all he has is an unlocked gate to a home that he grew up near and in from time to time that used to belong to his family and still does. So he has a personal connection to this home. So if we're trying to find the killer and there's killers who are fantasizing about certain crimes, wouldn't that fit? It fits into his profile, right? Why the Flora firehouse? Well, because he's familiar with it. He has history with it. Okay, well, why Ayers? Well, he was the first responder. He's the one that reported seeing the ribbons of fire. He's the first person to go into the home after Gaylin. He actually heard Gaylin. So that means he was up. His wife had reported that something had already upset her, caused her to be awake moments before the fire. What could that have possibly have been? What could have been bothering Adam's wife? Well, the majority of his charges are him attacking her violently. We're not talking like, oh, he smacked her or hit her. We're talking like held her captive, the RAPE word, like homicidal maniac shit. Dude spending he fits the profile. I'm pretty sure Adam Ayers lit this fire. So that's the way I feel about it. Oh, he absolutely is a monster. Absolutely. Well, there might actually even be footage of him like breaking out the windows. Let me see if I can find that. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Here it is. So I'm not going to play the whole dash cam because we're going to get out of here in a minute. But I want to play that part. You know what? I don't think it's on the dash cam. I'll have to find the video where they have actually show him. But I do have a photo of the broken window. If you guys can make sense of it, hey, maybe there's a purpose for that. So this is the girl's bedroom. So imagine if you were hired to light a fire, right? You light the fire, make sure nobody gets hurt. I'll give you such and such money. Okay, I'll light the fire, make sure nobody gets hurt. Light it in the back. Maybe he's drunk, a little bit high, doesn't realize that there's people there. Maybe he thought the girls weren't there for whatever reason. He thought his intel was good. Lights the fire, runs back to his home. Here's Gaylin screaming. Might even think, well, damn, I didn't think she shouldn't be there. And he's thinking, well, she's screaming for her girls, that her girls are in the home and the house is on fire. Now he could be thinking, well, I'm in big trouble. Like, I wasn't supposed to kill anybody. I'm supposed to light a fire and get money. Now this is a huge deal. You know, this is going to bring a whole lot of unwanted attention to a quick insurance scheme. You know, it went from insurance scheme, insurance fraud to quadruple homicide. So of course he's going to run in. So if he's hearing Gaylin yelling like, dude, my girls are in there, he's like, oh shit. So he's the first one to enter the home, tries to go up there and save the girls. It's too smoky. Runs out of there, starts doing things like this, breaking the windows. So I think that's what happened. That's just my opinion. I can't be certain. So here's the backyard that I was referring to. Let me see if I can get a good shot of the gate. Here's the upstairs apartment. So they just came out, walked out this door, and walked down the steps, and we're safe. But the way the house was designed, it would have trapped anybody that was upstairs. Okay, here's the backyard right here. So here's the mudroom door. And right here is an unlocked gate. Right here. And on the other side of the gate is a parking spot for Adam Ayers, for their property. It's a driveway. I don't know if they use it as a driveway, but it is a driveway. It's a driveway that leads to a gate. So if Adam Ayers is up at 3 a.m., which we already know he was because his wife was awake, she says, I couldn't sleep. She never, in her testimony, she said, I could not sleep. Something was keeping me up. She didn't say we could not sleep. You know, at night, I sleep with my wife. So if anything's going to be spooking us in the middle of the night, it's going to be we. We were spooked. We couldn't go back to sleep. She said, I couldn't. Something was already bothering me right before the fire was lit. That tells me he was already up, drinking, high possibly, doing what he's known to do, which is terrorize her and terrorize things around him. So why the Flora house? Why this house? Because his personal relationship to the home. As a child, he was in that home. His brother or his cousin is the one who provided him the home that he's living in now. So he might have an inferiority complex. You know, I'm not a man. I can't take care of my own family. Maybe his wife threw that in his face. Maybe he was hired by his cousin to do this. But either way, all he had to do was open this gate right here. All he had to do was flick it open, take 4 steps around this corner, and he's at the back door. And that's where the fire started, back there, the kitchen area. You walk through the mudroom, and there's the kitchen. Oh, here's a better view. Right? There's the gate right here. You pull a string, and that gate opens right up. And this is where my number one suspect lived at the time, right here. He lives in the state penitentiary now. He would have walked out of this room, opened this gate, walked through this back door, which I heard they don't keep locked. I don't know if they needed to. I think this was a full gate at one time or during the fire. I could be wrong. I believe they might have knocked this down. Somebody in the chat, if you could correct me on that. So here's the little driveway I was talking about. So they have a small driveway. And I mean, it was right up to the edge of Gaylin's home. You could barely fit in there. And then right when you stopped your car, there was a gate right there. So he would have been able to walk out this door or this back door, open the gate. I mean, it's like 10 steps away. If you back engineer this crime, it points right at him. You know, why Richard Allen in the Delphi case? Well, he loved the Monon High Bridge Trail. Might even have a inappropriate relationship with one of the girls. He also loved Riley Park. Girls spent a lot of time at Riley Park. Libby spent 3 seasons there playing softball. You got to be careful with these groomers. These groomers are good. Not only do they groom your children, but they educate them and they teach them how to hide it. Like, hey, your parents won't understand. They just want to keep us apart. Download this app and they'll never find it. Shit like that. And here with the Flora case, we have these young girls too. Across the street, we had Pizza King. That guy was arrested for sexually assaulting a 12-year-old girl. Flora fires. We have a girl, I think the oldest was 11, maybe 12. Yeah, Kiana was 11. So Kiana was 11, Kiara was 9, and Cariel was 7, Kiani was 5. Okay, so here's the upstairs apartment that's completely separate from the rest of the home. So there was a completely different family that was in there. They were unharmed. They ran out this back door, down the steps, and out to the front area. Oh, look. So here's proof that there was a gate. See, so no reason to... Can you guys see that? So there was a gate. No reason to lock this back door, right? Nobody's going to come through your gate and through your back door. You know, this is Flora. And it's my understanding that that door was left open, unlocked quite often. And here's that area right here with the gate. Let's see. Property demolition. In August of 2020, a federal court ordered the demolition of the fire-damaged home after all parties agreed it no longer needed preservation. Let's see. Gaylin Rose filed a lawsuit in U.S. District Court in Hammond, Indiana, against Birch Tree Holdings, Josh Ayers, who was Adams Ayers' cousin, and Troy Helderman, alleging the home lacked working smoke detectors, had non-functioning electrical outlets, and unsecured doors. The case was scheduled for trial in 2024. Okay, so the whole unsecured doors tells me that possibly the door couldn't lock, which feeds into that profile. Somebody with extensive knowledge of the crime scene and this home himself. Remember, it used to belong to his grandfather, was gifted to Josh, who is cousins with Adam. Adam would have been a small child running around the same backyard. Now he's a grown-ass man, can't provide for his family, and he's addicted to meth. I think if you got all drunk and high, that might bother you. If you're suffering from mental health and you're a psychopath, it might piss you off, cause you to do something like this. Maybe even have a little bit of a racial aspect to it. Psychopaths are always looking for an excuse, some kind of delusion that they can latch onto. I'm helping the neighborhood or I'm bettering things. But really, they're just trying to give themselves that nudge that they need to do what they've always wanted to do anyway. Remember, they're heading to prison their entire lives. And they've known it since they were probably 12, 10, 11, 12. Start thinking about this crazy shit. I don't know, Mark. There's a lot of weirdness with this case. The FBI being involved could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. You know what I mean? Two 911 calls. Multiple. Okay, the girl's mother has expressed profound grief, stating she feels robbed as a mother. She moved away from Flora, first to Indianapolis and later to California and Missouri, to cope with her loss. Rose has criticized the investigation's progress, noting a lack of communication from authorities. In 2019, ISP offered her immunity regarding alleged drug activity to discuss the case, but she has not met with investigators since. Rose maintains her innocence and denies knowing who might have set the fire. So imagine your kids were just murdered in an arson, and they're like, we know you know who did this. They didn't do that in the Delphi case, and there was plenty of drug activity there. Just weird for them to get tunnel vision like that. Like, how can you be so lost that that's all you have left? Like, I feel like some of these online sleuths are doing a better job than most of these investigators. It's disgusting. What's up, Fishy? Big fish in a small pond. Do we have transcripts? I don't know. Yeah, immunity, that's rude. Like, why would I need immunity? You know what I mean? Like, it's insulting. Like, maybe you should stop looking at me because I like to party from time to time and go do your fucking job. Like, this isn't New Jack City. I'm not having a turf war. I don't have debts. They did the same thing for a little while in Evansdale, and it really pissed me off. They got tunnel vision when it came to one of the parents' meth, things like that. It's like, are you that lazy? I mean, it's good that they look at these things, but to get caught up on them is what I'm talking about. I don't care if you flip up that rock, you know what I mean? But you don't have to flip up the rock and start digging your own like little tunnel saying, oh, well, something's down here. We just keep digging. We're bound to find something. Well, I mean, the planet is only so thick, right? We're going to end up in China. China. Paradox, you don't what? Yeah, if you have those, send them to me. That's interesting. Okay, Flora is a town of about 2,000 people, and they were deeply affected by the fire. Vigils were held. Memorials with stuffed animals, candles, and messages grew outside the home. A memorial bench in Flora honors the sisters. Alongside Delphi murder victims Abigail Williams and Liberty German. Fundraisers, including a Flora Four Angels cookbook, raised approximately $18,000. I always thought that was weird. A cookbook? It just seems inappropriate. Almost like I don't know. I just feel like people do things in bad taste. Like, how do you not know? 4 girls were basically cooked in the fire. You're selling cookbooks. It makes it seem as if you cooked them. You know, that's like that black magic shit. You want to talk about hiding in plain sight. That Duper's Delight shit. Yeah, arson is harder to prove. Let's spend the last 15 minutes talking about that. So let me put this back up on the screen, and we'll stop sharing that. Let's see if we can come up with a profile. And some of the information I gathered, even I don't agree with. So we'll have a quick discussion about it all. Some of it I like, and some of it I don't. You know, and it's usually it's generally speaking. All right, profile the killer. That's how I titled the notes. I'll close that. Paradox. Fox 59 sued the 911 folks to get the calls released. As far as I know, the police said it was part of an active investigation. We have leaked info on the chairman, yet no real info was released. Yep, you're right about that, Kelly. Okay, so this will be our amateur profile, right? What the hell do we know? Maybe we know more than we think, or more than we give ourselves credit for. Okay, likely 20 to 40 years old at the time of the crime in 2016. Approximately 29, 49 years old now. Arsonists who target residents, especially with intent to harm, are often adults in their 20s or 30s, old enough to plan and execute a deliberate act, but young enough to be physically capable of setting and escaping a fire. Right? Unless it was right next door. Thanks, Fishy. All right. Likely male. Arson, particularly when linked to homicide, is predominantly committed by males, though female arsonists do exist, often with personal or revenge motives. The physicality of setting a fire with accelerants and the lack of defensive wounds in the victim suggests a calculated act, more commonly associated with male offenders. Right? You would have to physically carry a canister filled with heavy liquid. I don't know if you guys have ever carried like a 5-gallon drum, but even 1 gallon has a little bit of weight to it. So you'd have to physically carry that without spilling it all over you, right? Because you don't want to catch on fire, and you don't want to be so obvious that you smell like some kind of accelerant. So you'd physically have to carry it, physically have to do it in the middle of the night while breaking and entering a home and without basically lighting yourself on fire. What's up, Hiawatha? Well, they were kicked off the Delphi case, remember? Okay, likely a local or someone familiar with Flora. The fire was set in a small town, population 2,000, suggesting the offender knew the area, the home's layout, or the victim's routines, or thought he did maybe. You know, that was one of the questions I wanted to ask Gaylin. Did you break any plans? Like, were you planning on leaving? Like, hey, everybody, we're going on, we're going to go somewhere over for a day or two. We're going to go stay with grandpa. We're going to do this. We're not going to be home. And then all of a sudden those plans change and you don't announce that part, You're just like, well, my plans changed. We're not going anywhere. And if somebody was eavesdropping, from next door or whatever, or just grooming you, or asking you direct questions like, hey, what's your schedule like this week? What do you got going on? Oh, so you're not going to be home today, so I can light your home on fire. The killer possibly lower to middle class. Arsonists often come from varied economic backgrounds, but those targeting residences may have personal grievances, right? That ties in with my profile, tied to economic stressors, right? Richard Allen, stressors before the murder. Most killers that are willing to sit down and talk with investigators after their confession or even interviewers, they talk about how there was some kind of a stressor that was a precursor. They lost a job, they had bankruptcy, their wife was cheating on them, they got divorced, something like that. Most people, they roll with the punches. There's a ebb and flow, ups and downs. But I think if you're suffering from psychopathy, you're a sexual sadist, or you got, your issues, you're fantasizing about violent crime constantly, you can't handle that shit. Thomas Jerome Bruce, before his crime, he had some stressors. All right. So what's the motive? Likely revenge, personal grievance, or a desire to conceal another crime, right? We have the young children as victims. There have been cases where somebody was grooming and molesting children and killed them in house fires. That's happened before. So, but I haven't seen too much evidence to support that, other than the creep that lives next door and the guy that ran the Pizza King across the street, who ended up being a pedophile targeting somebody very similar to the eldest sister. The fire may have targeted Gaylin Rose or someone associated with the household due to a personal conflict, romantic, financial, or social dispute, right? And that's where Doug Carter and the investigative team seem to have gotten caught up, right? We didn't find anything else, so that's all we got. Rose mentioned an ex-boyfriend and others visiting the night before, which could point to a relational motive. Concealment. The fire may have been set to cover up another crime, assault, or theft, though no evidence of additional crimes was reported. Thrill or control. Less likely, but some arsonists derive satisfaction from destruction or power. Some cases that we've covered, arsonists will light fires and they'll return to the scene of the crime with the video recorder or camcorder. And in one case that we covered, this mofo brought a chair. He went back home, changed his clothes, cleaned up, grabbed a chair, and I think he even had a drink with him, set up the chair and watched it all. Watched the fire department, first responders, and watched the flames just burn everything down. And for once in his life, he felt control. He felt like some kind of movie producer or director of his own movie, his own action movie. Like, look at all this action. A lot of murderers will do that. That's what had me questioning the whole James David Lucas, right? You have this connection to Delphi, and then you have this connection to Flora. A lot of times killers like to get involved. They like to see what's going on. They like to hide in plain sight. Because when you hide in plain sight, you can kill two birds with one stone. You can glean information while simultaneously redirecting the investigation in the opposite direction, kind of like a Morphew did. You know, he kind of became part of the team. Remember, Morphew was handing over evidence bags. Here you go. Here's a baggie. Playing with the bike in the back of the police vehicle. Right? Hiding in plain, right in front of him. There's your killer. And he's over there. He's the one dropping seeds, planting seeds, right? Trying to redirect while gleaning information. He wants them to look at the attack from some kind of wild animal. It was a mountain lion, officer. Right? That's how we planted the evidence. He scattered the bike. He scattered the helmet. And once again, why would he do it that way? Why would Morphew kill her in that fashion? Because those are the things that he knows. Those are the things that he sees in his day-to-day life, right? The whole idea of an animal attacking her. He's a veterinarian, right? The way the autopsy, the drugs that were found in her system belong to a veterinarian. So when a killer and a psychopath is fantasizing about committing murders, the one thing I've learned is that their fantasy involves things that are special to them personally. So when they fantasize about committing the crime, they incorporate all of the things that they know. And they're not as smart as they think they are, so they don't realize the projection, the projection of it all. They feel like it's not that obvious. Like, ooh, I'm so cunning. I'm so tricky. But really, everything that they're selecting is pointing right at the killer, which is them. They don't even realize it. Thanks, Clyborg. All right, let's continue on here. So blending in. So what did the killer do after the crime? The offender may have remained in Flora, blending into the community as many arsonists stay local to monitor the investigation or avoid suspicion. The FBI's call for tips about things heard or told since suggest the offender may have shared details with others over time. Remember, loyalties change. Lots of time has, I think we're reaching the 8-year mark? Lots can change, People get divorced. People are no longer on talking terms. They may have vendettas. They may have been backstabbed by the killer. Now it's my chance to get back at you. You snitched on me, so guess what? I'm going to snitch on you. And so much time has gone by, nobody will even know it was me. So they might feel more comfortable. Maybe they no longer live in the same home as the killer, maybe in a different state. So now they're comfortable coming forward with that tip. And if that's you, the number that you need to call is in the description. Remain anonymous and give that information. Gaylin and Flora in general and everybody involved, they need justice. These girls need justice. All right, let's see. No arrests in 9 years. So we're reaching the 9-year mark. Indicate the offender has avoided drawing attention, possibly by maintaining a low profile or having no prior criminal record. They may have provided alibis or deflected suspicion during initial interviews. All right. What about psychological traits? John Orr was a serial arsonist, fire captain, and investigator who also wrote a book that mirrored the fires he started. Jeez. I'm an author, but I don't have anything to write about. Well, let me go create something to write about. A lot of arsonists say the same thing, right? I'm a firefighter, but there's no fires. Let me go light one. Some of the worst fires in Arizona history were started by firefighters. Supply and demand, right? So we're looking for somebody who is likely antisocial, narcissistic tendencies, given the willingness to harm children and the calculated nature of the act. Arsonist with homicidal intent, and we don't know if that was the intent. My profile says it may not be. Definitely the intention was to light the fire, but to harm anybody, I'm not sure. Maybe they said, hey, well, if we do harm anybody, who cares? Intent often exhibit a lack of empathy and a sense of entitlement or justification for their actions. So may have convinced themselves that they were doing the right thing, or that whoever owned the property or lived there had it coming. Possible history of conflict with authority or interpersonal disputes, which could manifest in minor legal issues like domestic disputes, as seen with Adam Ayers in his 2014 arrest. May have expressed interest in or knowledge of fires, though not necessarily as a serial arsonist, as this appears to be a targeted incident. So what's the target? If this seems to be a targeted incident, what's the target? Well, right now it appears the target was the home. Who has a connection with the home? Adam does. Adam is the violent criminal that lived next door, who was up at the time of the fires, when the fire started. That guy. Some red flags. Could have a history of interpersonal conflicts, such as disputes with neighbors, right? I don't know if Gaylin had any issues with Adam. Landlords. You know, that's the leading theory there, that this was an insurance scam gone horribly wrong. Or romantic partners, you know. People who are emotional do crazy things. All of the dumbest shit that I've ever done, especially as a young person, had something to do with a girl. You know, you feel like your life is over. Crimes of passion, things like that. All, you know, drive you to the breaking point. Let's see. The offender likely knew the family or the home's occupants, giving the targeted nature of the fire in a small town. Could be a personal dispute with Gaylin herself, a conflict with the landlords, Josh Ayers and Troy Hilderman. The high insurance policy, which was $392,000 versus the $45,000 appraisal, raised suspicions of fraud, but this remains unproven. Maybe a local with knowledge of the home's vulnerabilities, right? That matches my profile. Somebody who knew that the back door, even when locked, could simply be jimmied open with a quick little nudge of the hip, you know, a little shoulder action. Boom. You know, the old tricks. Remember, he ran around that home as a child. So even if the door was locked, maybe he had knowledge that he could bust it open easily. The offender may be somebody who blends into Flora's social fabric, possibly attending community events or knowing the family's routine. The FBI's 2025 canvassing suggests they may still be in the area or known to residents. So maybe they got a tip and they're following up on it. But that's going to do it, you guys. We'll spend the next 2 minutes just hanging out in the chat. If you're part of the replay crew, you know exactly what to do. Drop a comment, and we will get back to you. Georgie says, revenge. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I'm working on a video too. Grudge, revenge. I don't know. Revenge for what? People are still chasing that narrative with the Delphi case with Derek German. I think so. It's a pretty unbiased observation, I think, Georgie. Thank you, Paradox. You take care of yourself. Remember, guys, hit the like button on your way out. If you can't hit the Cash App, hit the like button. It's right there. Let me put this up on screen. This will be all your tip lines. And we'll leave on that note. So I wanted to include the Indiana Arson Hotline. That's the 800-382-4628. The Indiana Arson Hotline, managed by the Indiana Department of Homeland Security, allows citizens to report suspicious activity or knowledge related to arson crimes in Indiana. A reward of up to $5,000 is offered with any information. And then also the FBI here. (1-800-CALL-FBI). Jari, what's up? Hope praying for a speedy recovery, Jari. Take care of yourself. Yeah, it could be Hiawatha. I mean, the victims that died were young girls. How do you keep them from talking? Just like Delphi, right? Richard Allen killed those poor girls to keep them from talking. Maybe that's what happened to the Flora 4. All right, guys, if you need anything from me personally, you can always shoot me an email at sleuthintuition@gmail.com. If you guys are interested in supporting my channel, consider becoming a member. You can always hit the Cash App, and you can always swing over to sleuthintuition.com and purchase some merch. Free shipping. Either way, I want to thank all my members, my moderators, and all my subscribers, and everybody who's watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.